honestly, if you would have asked me at the end of 2024 if I was going to be making this vlog in 2025, I would have told you no way. There was no way I was going to be making this vlog, but a lot of things have brought me to this moment. And what is this moment, you may be asking? And that is that I am going to reread Fourth Wing and read Iron Flame and Onyx Storm. I read Fourth Wing originally, well, kind of, during when it was super popular, when everybody was reading Fourth Wing, everybody was talking about it. And I read the first 120, 140 pages. And then I put it down for 6 months. And there was a reason for that. It wasn't really the book. I went into emergency surgery and ended up being down for the count for about a month. And everything I was reading at that time, I kind of just put aside and never really went back to it. At the end of the year, I wanted to clean off all the things that I was like currently reading, and I finished off Fourth Wing. And honestly, I don't know how much of that experience kind of weighed in on kind of detracting from the enjoyment of that. Obviously, that's kind of a traumatic experience. So did that pull away from my enjoyment? Maybe. On top of that, I was not a big fantasy romance reader at the time. I have been working really hard to find fantasy romances that I love. And I don't know if Fourth Wing can be one of them, but it might be able to be one of them. And the thing that really pushed me over the edge was recently my friend Leandra from Leandra the TBR Zero read Fourth Wing. Well, most of it. You can check out Leandra's video down below. Leandra did not like Fourth Wing and was voxering us updates while reading Fourth Wing of her thoughts. And while she was doing that, I was defending Fourth Wing, a book that I had said many, many times I didn't like, but I was defending it to Leandra. And I went, wait, do I like Fourth Wing? And I had like an identity crisis. I had an identity crisis of whether I actually liked Fourth Wing now, almost 3 years later. I'm a different reader. Reading tastes change. Do I like this book? And here we are. We're going to find out. I'm going to reread Fourth Wing. I'm going to read Iron Flame, and I'm going to read Onyx Storm. And obviously, that means we have to start with Fourth Wing. Do I remember this book? I think so. I think I remember most of the plot of Fourth Wing. I think. But it has been quite a while since I've read it, so obviously we need to give it a retry. We need to dive back in. We need to reread it, because I think if I picked up Iron Flame, I would be confused. So let's dive in. Let's read the Imperium series and see if now, almost 3 years later, a FANRO reader, do I enjoy this book more? Will I enjoy the series that is out overall? Did I rightfully defend this book? We are gonna start reading it and find out. So it's the next day and I've already made it to 33% of Fourth Wing and I'm having a good time. Much better time than I had the first time reading this around. And this is about the point where I put it down to have my emergency surgery and didn't pick it up for like 7 months. And I couldn't even imagine right now putting this down and not picking it up for 7 months with where we are in the book. We are just about to get to the really exciting part of the dragons. We are seeing people trying to attack Andarna. That's where I'm at right now. Who we will find out is Andarna. We don't know that at this point. But again, this is a reread for me. So I know. And that's where we're at. So I am definitely liking this a lot more now, 2 years later. Reading life is different. Circumstances, again, not having emergency surgery, that kind of thing is different, and being more of a FANRO reader. And I do think even the fact that this is a reread is helping it a little bit, because some of the things that I was annoyed with at the beginning, you get conclusions for by the end of the book. So knowing what's coming, I'm not annoyed by it. I'm like, oh, this is why that's in here. This is why we're seeing that. And I'm able to put those things together where maybe I was thinking they were odd plot points when I first read it, where I'm seeing the connections now. And I'm sure even more as I read Iron Flame and Onyx Storm, I'll even get more of the bits that will explain certain things in the book. I love Violet. Obviously, she is a badass and I love her. I am looking forward to seeing the dragons, because the dragons was my favorite part about this, reading it the first time, obviously. That was not the things that were keeping me from enjoying the book. Like, I loved the dragons the first time, so I cannot wait to see them more now this time. I keep wanting to hit Dane over the head every time he tries to tell her she needs to run away to the scribes. Like, I keep wanting to smack him in the head. I keep wanting to tell him to shut up. Nobody really likes Dane. You're not really supposed to. He's her childhood friend, and he's trying to protect her. And she has a chronic pain condition that is not making her an ideal candidate to be like fighting for the death, but she is a badass. And Dane is not allowing her to be the badass that she is. So that annoys me. It annoyed me the first time, but like, I understand it this time, but I do want to just like bop him. I love the found family with Rhiannon and Riddick and some of the other writers. I love that vibe, especially between, you know, our main character Rhiannon and Riddick. And also like Xaden has his found family with the separatists dragon riders. So I like that vibe in this book. I want to push Jack off a cliff. I wanted to push Jack off a cliff the first time. I think we can all agree that we want to push Jack off a cliff. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling. I am going to stop talking to you and dive right back in, because I'm having a really fun time. And honestly, I'm so surprised at how much fun I'm having. There's even some points where like there'll be a sarcastic comment from Xaden, and it kind of makes me want to like kick my feet. And me kicking my feet at Fourth Wing? This is really showing me that I am definitely in my FANRO era. If nothing has proven this, if me giving When the Moon Hatched my favorite book of the year, if me loving Quicksilver, like if those were not the things that proved it, oh, this is proving it. Also, do you know what I've done? Do you know what I did this morning? I ordered the other 2 books. They were on sale on Amazon, the hardcovers. I don't have the hardcover of Fourth Wing. I will eventually have to like get the hardcover to match. But I wasn't sure if I really wanted to spend the money on the hardcovers, knowing that like I didn't love this the first time. So now I'm going to get the hardcover at some point. I'm not in a rush to get that, just so that they match on my shelves though at some point. But I did order Iron Flame and Onyx Storm, because I knew I was going to be reading them in this vlog, but I wasn't sure if I needed to own them. I was maybe going to do them on Kindle. Well, not anymore. They were on sale on Amazon, and I ordered both of them. So they should be here in the next couple of days. I did order them through Prime, so like it should have been 2-day shipping, but it's saying like almost a week. And I don't know why. Maybe they have to cross the border. I have no idea why. We'll see when they arrive. But I mean, I still have to finish this one anyway, so it's fine. But I'm definitely like enjoying this so much that I cannot wait to actually binge this series. Who am I? So I've reached the 66% point of Fourth Wing, which puts me on chapter 27 and page 330. And I'm having a really fun time, honestly. I'm ready to push Dane off a cliff. Honestly, I was giving him the benefit of the doubt the last time I talked with you. I remember hating him, but I couldn't really remember the extent to which I hated him. And the more he keeps doing the things, the more I hate him. And I need him to just disappear. Like, I'm so over Dane. But like, I really like the book. I really am enjoying the dragons and the dragon structure that we're learning through this book. The dragons and their connection to their humans. And also the connection within the dragons. I don't think I remembered that or really appreciated that the first time I read this book. The whole bonding between 2 dragons, we see that, and also how they take care of Andarna, because we know that Andarna is a younger dragon, and the way the other dragons come together to kind of mentor her and raise her. We get only like a little look at that, but the little look we get is really interesting to me, and just like the interconnectedness of the dragons and the dynamics between the dragons. I definitely did not appreciate that nearly as much as I should have. Xaden and Violet, I am obsessed with them, honestly. They're not together yet, but obviously they're kind of like skirting around each other. And I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with them. And I don't think I really had that kind of connection to them the first time I read this book. Actually, I know that I didn't because I was very mid about this book. And I do think putting it down like halfway through didn't help. Putting it down for like 7 months definitely did not help. I think also I was nervous when reading this the first time that we were going to really kind of lean on a love triangle, which I don't typically love. And I think reading this the first time, I was like, how big of a problem is Dane going to be for this romance? And this is not a love triangle. Like, she doesn't like Dane. And I mean, she likes him as a friend, and he's kind of a horrible friend, but like, there isn't a romantic connection between them. And I think I was nervous that it was going to be like a love triangle, that I didn't get to appreciate the enemies to lovers between Xaden and Violet the first time because I was too nervous about the love triangle. And now, like, going back on a reread, I know that's not the case. I know that's not the trope in here. So, you know, it's fine. I can really like focus on the love interest that I know I should focus on and less on Dane and just be kind of like annoyed by Dane, which I believe we all are. You know, we're all annoyed by Dane. Still loving the found family vibes, obviously, because I do know what's coming in this book. There's certain characters that I think I'm paying more attention to than I would have the first time I read this book because I know what parts they play near the end. And obviously, I'm not going to talk about that because those would be spoilers, but there are definitely characters that I'm paying more attention to. There was definitely a lot in the middle of this book that I completely forgot about, though. Like big, huge scenes, I completely forgot. And I did not take note of them the first time. I think I really just did not give the book the time and energy it deserved the first time I read it. And because I am this time, and I do think it's right book, right time right now where it wasn't then, and also I'm a different reader now than I was then, I'm really able to appreciate this. I've also read a lot more fantasy romance, so I know the structure of a fantasy romance better, where I think when I picked this up, you know, years ago when I picked it up the first time, I was reading it as a fantasy reader. And it's okay to do that. But I think when you know more about the structure that like fantasy romance leans on, you can sink into this book a little bit more than I could have then. Anyway, I'm having a great time. I really, really am. And I cannot wait for the other books to arrive. They're not supposed to be here for a few days, so I think I'm going to have to take a break and not dive right into the next book, but maybe not. Because I still have, you know, what, 200 pages left? Yeah, I still have over 200 pages left. Oh, maybe not, because these are the extra Xaden chapters. I'm not going to read the extra Xaden chapters. I'm not going to do that. I do not like rereading scenes from another perspective. I find it repetitive, and I don't like repetitiveness. So I actually have just under 200 pages. Just. Oh, I lied. There's another bonus Xaden chapter. So I have a lot less than 200 pages because basically there's 40 pages of extra Xaden content at the end of this book. So yeah, I have 170 pages left. That's not going to take long. So let's dive in. I still have a fair few hours of sprints today. I'm reading this on Thursday sprints. So I'll definitely be able to read a lot more of this today. And I don't think I'll finish it today, but I do think I'll put a big dent in it because it's very bingeable. And also it is a reread. Like, we need to remember that, yes, I don't remember every bit of this story, but it is a reread, so I remember a lot. And it does make it faster to read when it's a reread. I have finished Fourth Wing. I'm going to give this a 4.5 stars. So the first time I read this, I gave it a 3. So this is significantly higher rated this time. Obviously, you've noticed that I've been enjoying it as I've been reading it. I do think one of my problems with this book at the beginning, and I still think is the reason I'm not giving it 5 now, is the ending, the pacing of the end. And it is common in any fantasy and fantasy romance that a lot happens at the end of the book. And you're getting a lot of reveals and a lot of things happening at a pace. But I still feel that the pacing of the ending of this is a tad bit off. It's rushed. We're getting a lot of reveals, a lot of things happening, and normally it's like the last 100 pages are super busy, but this is like the last 50 pages is super busy, and I think trying to stuff all that into 50 pages, you feel as a reader unsettled, which actually, now that I'm saying this, may have been intentional because Violet feels unsettled at the end of this book, so maybe you're trying to make the reader feel similarly to Violet. I actually just had that thought now, but I don't know if that's it, but like you could correlate that, I guess. I would have liked a little bit of space. I would have liked to have a little bit more to the ending of this book just because I feel like the pacing picks up just a bit too much at the very, very end. And so much important stuff is happening at the very end of this book that obviously we're going to explore in the next book, that I would have liked just to have a little bit more space to digest it all. But overall, I really enjoyed this book. Overall, I definitely enjoyed this a lot more now than I did then. We've talked about all the reasons, so I'm not going to dive too much into that. But there is another reason that I remembered while I was reading the end of this book, because I was starting to compare this book to a book that I read around the same time I read this the first time. And that book is not a fantasy romance book. It's a fantasy book. It's Fireborn, and I adore Fireborn. I gave it 5 stars. And the outline of Fireborn and the outline of Fourth Wing are very, very similar. But the dragons are similar-ish. These dragons are talking dragons, so I do think that gives this like a point. But like overall, the general consensus and ideas are very, very similar. And I think the entire time I read this the first time, because I read them extremely close together, I was comparing the politics from one to the other, and I was finding this one lacking. I disagree with Past Me. I do still love Fireborn. I mean, I gave that 5 stars, so I did score that higher than this one, even upon giving this a 4.5. But I do think there is a lot of strong politics in this book, and I think we're going to dive into that even more in the series. In this book, we don't dive into it nearly as much, but that's because you're laying it out for a 5-book series. Totally fair, no issues with that. That makes sense to me. So I'm actually disagreeing with Past Me. When I've been saying I want fantasy romance that still has great world building, still has great politics, still has all those elements that I love from fantasy, but also has a great romance. And I wasn't thinking this had this, but it does. It really does have the politics that I've been wanting. Again, one thing I mentioned when I talked to you last was this dragon politics that I definitely did not clock the first time I read this book. The interpersonal relations with the dragons, not just the dragons with the humans, but the dragons within themselves. I want to know more. I want to see more. And I'm really hoping that because there are 2 more books out and I'm going to binge them, I'm going to get a lot more of that in the subsequent books. I have somewhat been led to believe that because a lot of people were telling me, read the next books. You will get more of the politics that you want. And honestly, I saw a lot more of it in this than I did the first time. So I'm excited to continue. So let's do that. Let's start Iron Flame. I have actually a lot of time to read today, so I am going to dive into Iron Flame with a vengeance. I think I'm going to come back around the 50% point because obviously with this being a sequel, I won't be able to talk about the plotting of this book too much in the actual like specifics of what's happening in the book. But I will be able to talk about themes, my enjoyment level, all that good stuff. So I think around the 50% point, I will come back and check in with you. Honestly, this book is much chunkier. She is large and in charge, so that's going to take me a minute to get through to the 50% point, but I'm not necessarily intimidated by the size because I do read chunky fantasy books quite often, so that's totally fine. And also, because I wanted a bit more space at the end of Fourth Wing, I'm hoping that the size of this gives me what I wanted at the end of this, if that makes sense. But let's get started and find out. I'm actually really excited to dive into this because this was a reread. I knew what was coming. I did forget a lot of the little bits in the middle of this book, but like all the main points, all those cliffhangers at the end, I remembered. And I'm actually really excited to see where we go from those reveals at the end of Fourth Wing and see how the story continues, because at this point, I now no longer know. I don't know where we're going. I know almost nothing about the actual story in Iron Flame. I will say, when Iron Flame first came out and everybody was talking about the end of Iron Flame, I did spoil myself for the ending. However, that was well over a year ago, and I did not care enough that my brain kept that information. So truly, I don't remember. I know at one point I knew, but honestly, if you were like to, put high stakes and say, Brittany, you must tell me the end of Iron Flame, what happens? I couldn't tell you. Like, I literally could not. So I am really going into Iron Flame with like being completely blind towards the story and what actually happens in the book.
Thought the praying would make it better, but I swear to God I'm just as lost as ever. Thought the bottle would hold me over, it still hurt me just as bad when I got sober. Everyone around me's found a way to let it go, but I can't help but focus on the things I can't control. All the darkness in my mind, pain that I can't leave behind. I know there's a silver line that I can't see. All the cold and sleepless nights, running out of ways to fight. I know there's a morning light in my reach if I keep buying time.
So I've made it to 52% of Iron Flame, which puts me on page 320 at the start of chapter 36. And Iron Flame is kind of a different vibe. It is. But the start of it was eerily similar, because obviously each book, I'm assuming Onyx Storm is her third year at the college. But this is Violet's second year at the Biscayath War College. And obviously Fourth Wing is her first year there. So the first 200-ish pages of this book-ish really do follow a lot of similar events, but from the perspective of her and her friends as a second year, and also with the perspective of everything that kind of happens at the end of Fourth Wing, because a lot happens, and we're going into this with our eyes kind of opened to some things that we've learned. So we're reliving a lot of events from a different vantage point. We're seeing, the gauntlet, we're seeing threshing, we're seeing the parapet, all of this from a second year perspective. So we're not really going through it. We're kind of like watching it through Violet's eyes from afar. But it still feels like we're going through a lot of the same things. I didn't mind it. I felt it was fine. It worked. It was a little slow paced, but it was working and it didn't feel super repetitive, even though I just read Fourth Wing. Like it worked. Then a bunch of stuff starts happening and we really pick up the pace. We change the vibe. We really settle into what is Violet going to do with the information that she now knows from the end of Fourth Wing. That's all I'm going to say. Obviously, in the first book, she's entering the War College as a first year. Xaden is a third year. He is done by this point. He is now a full-fledged rider, officer, and he's being sent off to the front. However, their dragons are connected. So they have to see each other fairly often because their dragons are connected. But also there is a lot of time where Xaden is off doing other things. And he is not at the War College every day like he was in the first book. So I feel like the first, 200-ish pages, even really up to where I am now, yes, there is part of their relationship happening, but a lot of their relationship is from afar, almost like a long distance situation. Yes, we do see them together, but from what I've read and the first, 50% of this book, the romance definitely takes a back seat to the fantasy and the politics of this book, which works for me perfectly fine. I love a political fantasy story. I love seeing characters questioning what they thought they knew and trying to find seeds of truth throughout information. That is a type of fantasy that I really do enjoy. And I've been really able to settle into that in this book. But I will say that I think for the first 50% that I've read, maybe it will be more romancy in the second half. But the first 50% of this book was more fantasy than fantasy romance. There is obviously a romance component, but it's nowhere near like a 50-50 split in the first part of Iron Flame. This is a lot of fantasy. It's a lot of political fantasy, and I'm here for it. I like it. It's a slow start, though. Could this be edited down? Yes. Am I enjoying it? Yes. There's a lot that we're covering in this book, and honestly, the stakes are very high. The stakes are high in Fourth Wing, too. Obviously, a lot of people die in Fourth Wing. Just like even at the very start of the book, you see people like falling off the parapet left, right, and center. Like everyone's dying. Dragons burn people up. There's a lot of people dying in Fourth Wing. This, however, the stakes are higher in a different way. Obviously, people are still dying, but like it's a different vibe. We have some new characters coming into this book. Some characters that we didn't have in the first book. We have a lot of returning characters from the first book, but there's two kind of main characters that are new in this book, Sloane and Alaric. And I'm not going to go into who they are, but I really enjoy their additions for various reasons. I think they're really showing different aspects of what is going on in this war college, in this system, and they represent different things to Violet. Kind of where she came from, where she's going, what she's deciding to do. And these characters bring, even though they are very much side characters and they are not main characters in this book in any way, but they're bringing something to the story, and I'm enjoying getting to know them in the little glimpses that I'm getting to know them. A couple of themes that we're really seeing in this book is the theme of censorship and what happens when a society censors its citizens and censors the knowledge going out to its citizens to the extent that we're seeing in Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. And I really am finding that commentary very interesting, even around banned books. We kind of covered that in here, and I'm enjoying that commentary in this book as well. One thing that I really wanted to see more of in Fourth Wing was the dynamics between the dragons and kind of the government of the dragons and the ruling faction of inter-dragon personal things like between dragons. And you're really getting that in this story. We have a new professor show up to this college, and his dragon adds another level, another aspect to this dragon society. And obviously we have Tairn, who is her dragon, who is, one of the best, most senior dragons currently at the college. And we have also Andarna, who is a hatchling in the first book, and we see her kind of going through stages of dragon development. And I am finding that in the interpersonal relationships of the dragons and the politics of the dragons, not how they are connected to humans, but like within the dragons. As I said, with Fourth Wing, we're diving more into that. And I'm so glad, because I find that absolutely fascinating. I honestly think with this one, I kind of hope the relationship actually picks up in the second half of this book, although I am really enjoying that it's super fantasy heavy. I mean, I like the romance, so I don't want to like abandon it. We haven't, but like I could honestly use more of it, which is shocking to me that I'm saying that, because I'm always here for a fantasy novel. But like, I just love Violet and Xaden so much that like, I just want Violet and Xaden, if that makes sense. Which, I mean, they're in here, but I could use more. But I understand that they are busy dealing with other things. So like, they don't necessarily have time to fully just romance the heck out of each other, if that makes sense. Like, I get it. Anyway, I am on my last sprint for the day, so I'm going to read maybe a tiny bit more of this today. Probably not very much, because I do have a couple of other things to do this evening. And then I will pick this up. I would like to say tomorrow, but it may actually be in a couple of days. I would love to just dive in and continue this tomorrow, but I do have a book club that I need to participate in. So it might be a couple of days before you see me, maybe a couple of days, because obviously I'm going to chat with you probably next when I finish this. And it's going to take me a minute to read another 50% of this very, very chonky book. Like, she is so large and in charge. But like, I'm enjoying it. I'm not mad about it. Yes, it could have been edited, but like, I'm not mad. I'm really not mad. I'm enjoying the fantasy aspects of this way too much to be mad that it's long. But I'm liking it. I'm having a good time, and I'll check back with you when I finish.
I stopped going out to bars, I quit smoking. Thought that giving that all up would keep me going. I got over people pleasing. I quit falling into love that had no meaning. I could search forever for a peace I'll never know, but I can't help but focus on the things I can't control. All the darkness in my mind.
Rebecca Yarros, what is the ending of this book? Wow, so many things happen in the end of this book. So much. Some of it will make you sad. Some of it will make you excited. Like, honestly, there were some reveals that I was like so interested in, and I was rooting for the characters and the creatures. And then there's things happening that you're like, are they going to survive this? There's so much happening at the end of this book. And we leave with some things that, like, I don't know how they're going to continue in the next book. I don't know where we're going to go from here, but I'm excited to find out. I will say there was a moment in this book where I did find a little bit of a plot hole around Andarna and the lore of Andarna. And that was about halfway through, right after I talked to you. There was a little moment. But overall, I really felt like the fantasy in this book was really, really strong. The politics was really strong. This really leans into a full fantasy book. Yes, there is some romance in here. Yes, technically this series is fantasy romance based off the first book, and I believe Onyx Storm. But this book really is a strong fantasy forward book. And that is what the author focuses on mostly in this book. There is some romance, especially in the second half, but it is a really strong fantasy book, and I really enjoyed it for that, because I do really like good, strong fantasy, good, strong politics. I really love these characters. The found family that I loved in the first book, we saw more of that in this book, and we saw a lot more information on the dragons, especially near the end of this. We learned so much about dragons, and I was here for it. I do think I'm going to give this a 4-star. I do think I'm going to give it a 4. And that does mean I did like Fourth Wing a little bit more than I liked Iron Flame. And I do think it's the size of this. Not necessarily because I don't love chunky fantasy. I do. I just don't think this needed to be quite the chunkiness that it was. I think this could have been edited down a little bit. I think the pacing could have been a little bit better. I think the first couple of 100 pages could have been condensed down. And then from that point where it really picks up around the 300 page mark and forward could have really been this book. We could have had some of the, we still needed some of the stuff in that first 200 pages, but I think it could have been cut down and more condensed. And this book could have been a 5-star for me, honestly. It really could have been. I really enjoyed the politics in this. I really enjoyed the fantasy elements and the ending. Like, where are we going to go? Rebecca Yarros, what are you doing? Like, I don't know where we're going. But luckily, because I'm binging this series, I don't need to wait to find out. I can dive right into Onyx Storm and read that next. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm not going to start Onyx Storm today because I do need to finish a book for a live show that is coming up this weekend. And realistically, I need to, prioritize the book that I need to have thoughts for a live show. But that's okay. I can read that for the rest of today and then really dive into Onyx Storm tomorrow or the next day, depending on how long it takes me to read that book. Hold on. I'm trying to reach Onyx Storm and I put it just out of reach. 1 second. Okay. There we go. I had to lunge for Onyx Storm, but we have it. This one I have very high hopes for because, first of all, I know so many people who gave this 5 stars. I know so many people who have had very similar thoughts to the first 2 books as I am having this time around. Obviously, we're just going to ignore past me. She was a different reader and she doesn't know. Okay, so we're just going to talk about me now. People who have had similar thoughts to me now, they really adore this book. Like, adore it. 5-star, fantastic book. And also, it is significantly smaller. We're back to about the size that Fourth Wing was. I do think it's a little bit bigger than Fourth Wing, but that's okay because we have a lot to cover past the end of this and there's a lot to do. So I'm okay with it being a little bit longer. This seems like a more appropriate size. It feels like this probably had more editing that Iron Flame could have had. And I do know that even though I'm reading this like years after this came out, well, like a year after Iron Flame came out, I know that this one was a bit rushed. We all know this. They rushed the Iron Flame release because of the popularity of Fourth Wing. And I do think that comes across in the book. It comes across in the editing. They didn't take the time in the editing that it needed. But this one, they did. They took the year between the books, and I think that that's going to show in the book. And I'm really excited to dive in and see what happens, where we go, what are we doing, what are we taking the story, where are we taking the story? And then what am I going to feel at the ending when I can't pick up the next book? A little sad about that, truly. I'm a little bit sad that I'm not going to be able to like go right into the next book after this one, honestly. Who would have thought? Do you know what I'm really excited for though? Is that like now that I'm falling in love with Fourth Wing, now that I'm falling in love with the series, next year or whenever the next book comes out, because I know it's not released. I know Rebecca Yarros has pretty much said like, I will get to it when I get to it. She really wants the time and space to write a good next book. And I'm okay with that. I would rather that than a rushed book any day. Take your time, write the book that we all want at the quality that we all want it. Like, that's fine. I am going to get to participate in like the release parties and the excitement of this series, because I feel like there isn't that many series that have this kind of excitement when a new book comes out. And I've never really been able to participate in that. So I'm excited that I will be for whatever the next book is going to be. Anyway, I will come back to you once I've started Onyx Storm and see where I land with this one. Is this one more fantasy romance? I think it must be, but we'll see. Is this one more fantasy like Iron Flame? Either way, I'm happy, honestly, as long as we like keep giving me the things. If you keep giving me the things that I've been enjoying this whole time, I'm here either way. Obviously, I liked both books. 4.5, 4-star. Will this be my first 5? Maybe. I would be totally okay with that.
That I can't leave behind. I know there's a silver line that I can't see.
Friends, let's talk Onyx Storm. I am 54% of the way through this book, and I have thoughts, honestly. The first 40% of this book was actually quite hard for me. There were things that I was interested in when it comes to the dragons, when it comes to the politics. We know this from past books. But in this book, we have, in my opinion, added too many characters. We have grown the amount of side characters in this book exponentially, and some of them make sense. Some of them have roles that are needed for the plot. Some of them do not, and they are extra characters that you don't really have time to get to know because the pacing of this book is significantly faster than Iron Flame. And because of that, you have no space to get to know these characters, and some of them are just not around long enough to get to know them, but they're there and it just feels unnecessary. I feel like the little bit of plot that those characters have brought to the book could have easily been given to characters and side characters we already know. One of my favorite parts of the first book was the found family of Fourth Wing and Violet's cadet family and Xaden's cadet family and how that played together. And in this book, we have abandoned so many of those characters. They're still around, but for some reason, we're not utilizing them. And I don't know why you wouldn't. You have, for 2 books, had me fall in love with some of these side characters, and then to just forget that they're around. You barely see them. You're kind of like, where is blank character? And you're like, where did they go? Where are they? And I don't understand why we've done that in favor of bringing on really flat side characters that are new that I have no connection with. Now, that's not always the case. Like I said, there is a couple of new characters that I do think are needed, but some of them are just not, and we could have given their storylines to characters I already knew. And because, again, the pacing of this is so much faster with the plot, you don't have the space to really develop those characters. And as a character-focused reader, that is something that really always does not work for me in a book. When the plot is so fast that you cannot have breath to really get behind the characters that are in this book. Now, since this is the third book in a series, that's less of an issue because obviously I know some of these characters were for a while now. I know them, I understand them. So for some of these characters, it's not a problem. It's mostly for the new characters that have just landed into our periphery. Also, I do feel like Xaden is a really different character in this book, and it does make sense based off what has happened from the first two books that he would be a little bit different in his personality because, you know, they've all been through some stuff, okay? They've all been through some stuff by this point. So I understand why, but I don't think I like it. I don't dislike Xaden in this book, but I'm craving the Xaden I know. Now that is the first 40%. I have read another 14. I'm at 54% at this point, and I do think I started to really enjoy this book around the 40% point because we did somewhat bring in some of the side characters I know and kind of leave some of the other ones that I wasn't as keen on. And I do think that has helped a little bit. Also, we are doing some really interesting things with the plot that is making me kind of sit up and be like, what is happening? Where are we going? What are we about to find out? Like, I feel like we're learning some things and things are happening and I'm interested in the plot that is happening. So for the last 14%, I've really been, you know, checked in, powered in. But I will say, leading up to that, I was kind of sitting here going like, should I DNF this? And I was like, well, I can't DNF this. I put way too much work into DNFing this late in the series. But the fact that that even entered my brain really is kind of a disappointment for the start of this book. Now, again, since about 40%, I've been dialed in. So I may come back and be like, you know what? From 40% on, this book was fabulous. I really liked it. You just kind of got to power through the first bit. And maybe that's the case. But I have not felt like DNFing any of these books leading up. I've been really enjoying my time. So the fact that there was a moment of like, is this one going to work for me? What's going on? Why am I not connecting to this book? There was that moment. There was. And that was the first time through this experiment that I felt that way. So anyway, I'm going to keep reading because I have been enjoying the last 14% of this book. And there was some things in the first 40 that I did, but overall I was somewhat checked out of the first 40% of this book. I wasn't connecting with the characters and that made it really hard for me to want to keep reading. So hopefully for the rest of this, I am dialed in. Hopefully for the rest of this, I am interested and I'm going to strap in and finish it out. And I will come back with you and tell you where this falls in the series for me. Right now, as it sits, Fourth Wing is my favorite. I think Iron Flame would have been my favorite had it not been for it needing to be edited. To be honest, I think really the vibe of Iron Flame is more my style. But right now, Fourth Wing's sitting at my favorite. And unless something really just mind-blowing happens in the last bit of this book, which I kind of think might happen, so I don't want to rule that out, Fourth Wing will be my favorite, but we'll see. We'll see, because I have heard from multiple people that the ending of this is going to rock me, that it's going to really just throw me for a loop. So we'll see. I don't want to speak. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, and I'm going to go keep reading Onyx Storm.
All the cold and sleepless nights, running out of ways to fight. I know there's a morning light in my reach if I keep buying time. There's a storm inside my dreams. I'm still standing.
Okay. I did not love this one. Honestly, I didn't love this one, and I didn't love it when I last checked in with you, and honestly, nothing in the later half helped it out much. When it came to things with the dragons, I was super interested. You know, the dragons are really one of my favorite parts of these books. So when we were talking about Andarna and different things about different types of dragons, I was dialed in. I was really enjoying that. And that was really working for me. But a lot of the other stuff and a lot of the facets of the rest of this book just were not what I loved about the first two books. We really missed the found family vibes in this, and I think that goes back to some of the character stuff I was talking about last time I talked with you, is we lost that feel in this book, and it was one of the reasons I liked Fourth Wing so much, was the found family vibes, and I really feel like it was missing significantly in this. Again, the relationship, because Xaden feels like an almost different character in this book, I just kept wanting the Xaden that I knew and loved, and truly nothing right up to the end of this book really gave that to me. You'd have glimpses, but most of the time you didn't. And I don't necessarily think that's going to be better in the next book, knowing where we left this. And I did film myself reading the last bit of the book because I was requested that I do so, but really, I don't really find the ending that satisfying or that exciting or making me really wanting to dive into the next book. I found Fourth Wing had a great cliffhanger and something that made you really want to read Iron Flame. Iron Flame also had a really great cliffhanger that really made you want to read Onyx Storm. This one, I'm just like, okay. And maybe that's because I wasn't as interested in the plot of this book as I was with the past two books. And that's very possible. In the second bit of this, and really in the last 50 pages, we end up adding perspectives to this book. And I won't go into whose perspective we get, because spoilers, but I really found those unnecessary and quite distracting from the main story. I did not care about the perspectives that we were given. Even if I knew the characters and felt connected to the characters, I just felt like their perspectives in the moment that you were adding them really felt unnecessary and out of place. I think if you were going to do that, you should have done it earlier in the book or waited till the next book to do so. They just felt like really out of place chapters that did not give me anything. And what it gave me was just not interesting, and it kind of took me out of it. And I didn't love like the construction of the end of this book. The actual like writing choices, I didn't really care for. I am going to give this one 3 stars. It's going to be a 3 because I didn't hate it, but it's definitely my least favorite of the series by far. I am going to pick up the next book. I was just saying when I started Onyx Storm how excited I was to be a part of the next release and be excited for the next release, and this put a damper on that for me a little bit. But since I really loved the first 2 books, I'm going to just assume that this was an outlier for me, and I'm really going to hope that the next one brings back those found family vibes, brings back in the things that I love, and keeps the dragon stuff that I already know that I love. I am a bit concerned about where we're going with this romance. I'm not going to lie. I'm a bit concerned because, again, I miss the Xaden that I know and love. And I miss him. And I missed him through the entire book. He was there, but again, they've been through a lot. I understand why they are making different choices and acting differently, but I don't like those choices. So it's making it hard for me to feel really connected to their relationship. And since this is a fantasy romance and the romance is a big part of the plot, that hurts the book for me. However, I'm going to still try another book for sure. I mean, I gave the first one a 4.5. I gave Iron Flame a 4. This one was a 3. So, you know, we have been going downhill each book. But I will say, and I think I already said it in this vlog, that I do think Iron Flame was more my vibe. Had that been edited, I think I would have liked it more than Fourth Wing. So like in technicality, as an overall book, I did like Fourth Wing the best of all 3. But Iron Flame is a strong sequel for me. Like it was strong. This, not so much. I'm so sorry. I know people who love this book so much, and I've talked about why it didn't work for me, and there's really nothing left to say about this. So we are ending the Empyrean vlog on a little bit of a sour note, but with the high hopes that whenever the next book comes out, I will like it more, because I am going to continue with this series. Now, one thing that I never thought I would say is that I have really enjoyed binging a series. Like, it's been fun to like sit and actually knock it out and just like keep going to the next book and really keep building through the series as I went. So would you like to see me binge another series? And if so, what series would you like to see me binge? Leave me some ideas down below. Please try to pick ones that you think I will like, because obviously I'm going to commit to a whole series. So like, you know, think my reading taste in mind. But let me know if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, but you don't have anything to say, and you want to let me know that you watched my entire journey through the Empyrean, because it has been a journey. We've had highs, we've had lows, we've been everywhere. Leave me the dragon emoji, because it is only fitting. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one, friends. Bye.